Bobbed hair gives a woman too much confidence in herself, makes her daring and dashing and devilish. Picture it, it's 1920. The media is mentioning the bob. People are talking about it a little, some negatively and some positively, but it's not a huge deal yet. And the bob is still curly and feminine, but few women are actually lopping off their locks. But within just a few years, the 1920s bob varied so much in the silhouette, the cut, the bangs, the texture, and as we love to do in the hairstyle industry, there is a name for every variation. So how could a haircut be such a big deal? Bobs became so popular that they turned the world of feminine style upside down in a way nothing ever had before. And I would argue nothing ever has since. The only other thing I can compare it to that was both so controversial for women and at the same time became so widely accepted in a relatively short period of time is maybe women getting tattoos? But even still, most of those tattoos are hidden by clothes, not sitting right on top of a woman's head. My inspiration for making this video for you today is this 1929 Teachers College yearbook that a very sweet client of mine gave me. I'd say about 70% of the women in it have bobbed hair, and the variations in their hairstyles are endless. I love this book because it really shows how the everyday girl wore her bob. Yes, I'm sure many of them went to their hairdresser before sitting for their portrait, but these girls did not have the Hollywood machine that actresses had to perfect them. I started this video with the idea I was just going to highlight some of the hairstyles in this beautiful book, but I went a little bit down a rabbit hole, as is usual for me. I am really excited to share with you what I have found in my research. If you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Lauren, and I love hairstyles from the early 20th and mid 20th century, and my channel is here to show you what these hairstyles look like and how they can be done. So where did the Jazz Age bob of the 1920s begin its popularity? How did the fashionable girl's look go so dramatically from the Gibson girl to the boyish bob? First, there was a natural progression in hair silhouettes. In the late 1890s through the early 1900s, this full Gibson girl look was all the rage. In the 19-teens, this fullness migrated down around the sides and the back of the head. It is the natural way the pendulum swings in hair fashion. The high front volume of the Gibson girl starts to go out of style, and women interested in new fashion start to bring their hair down and fasten it in the back. This was the first part of the progression of the hair framing over the ears and around the chin. The short bob cut itself started to show up during World War I. We already have the silhouette started. During the war, military nurses often cut their hair for comfort and sanitation reasons. These women were serving all over the globe in some very hot climates, and there might not have been much of an opportunity for them to wash their hair. An Australian nurse stationed in an inhospitable part of the world during the war described in a letter that they would cut their hair short to prevent bugs from infesting their hair while they slept. A few famous women in the late 19-teens bobbed their hair for health reasons. Irene Castle gets the most credit for making the bob a fashionable haircut. It was already in the silhouette around the ears. She was so famous and widely photographed at the time that her Castle bob became all the rage. In this article from 1920, Corinne Griffin complains that the bob she had gotten was a poor decision as an actress. She felt it restricted the characters she could play, and she didn't like wearing wigs. The article also mentions some other early famous ladies with the cut, including Viola Dana and Dorothy Gish. So the bob in 1920 isn't radical, but it is still just novel. But then, by 1924, just to put into context how dramatic and far-reaching this change was in women's hair fashion, this is a picture of the 1922 Alpha Chi Omega sorority house of Purdue University. You can see that a lot of these young women still have the look of long hair that has been pulled down and back and fastened in the voluminous style around the neckline. Then we skip to 1926, just 4 years later. So you could see that was a really big deal. And oh, the opinions, everybody had them, but I'll get to those in a bit. So let's get into the bob hairstyles that were popular in the 1920s, and some that you might not have ever heard of. I am doing my best to be accurate on these hairstyle names. I have found some conflicting information. Publications of the time didn't always agree on the names. I've collected these hairstyle names from various sources, including this early 1920s industry manual written by barber Joseph De Silvas. In the beginning, the barbershop was where women went to get their bobbed haircuts because barbers were much more skilled in short hair. I'm actually in the process of reproducing this 20s bobbing manual and making it available with the rest of my reproduction books. I'll leave a link in the description once it's available. Let's talk about curly styles first. They relied on natural curl, marcelling, perming, or water waving. And as I talk about these styles, I am going to show you the examples I found of the looks, mostly from the 1929 yearbook, but also from a couple other places if I couldn't find great examples. Many of these hairstyles used the method of shingling. Shingle cutting is a tapering of the hair at the bottom without elevating it, so the lower part of the hair shapes nicely toward the neck and around the face. Tapering the hair by elevating it for cutting was also used, mostly on curled and waved hair. As far as I can tell, the wavy shingle and the Charleston bob are the same style. Designed for women who are getting a marcel wave or a perm, the cut is supposed to be done after the waves have been styled. It is shingled up the back and tapered around the sides to curve around. The natural curly shingle was a cut for women with thick hair. The lady bob was meant for women with finer, naturally wavy hair. If you had natural curls in the 1920s, you were all set to be very fashionable. Natural curls were easy to comb into the waves that were so popular. A very common waved bob style was called the boyish bob. It was shingled around the back and blended with longer sides that covered the ears. There are no bangs, and the hair can be considered a boyish bob whether it is left straight or finger waved or marcelled. It was very flattering with a cloche hat, especially when waved, and you could see the waves around the face. The differences between the straight bob cuts are based on cutting angles and such, similar to the curly cuts. The style the back is cut also defines them. Louise Brooks and Colleen Moore were two of the most common straight bob cuts of the 1920s, the straight shingle bob and the Dutch bob. We can't always see the back of hairstyles in these images, so we have to make some inferences on what cut a woman might have. Either parted down the middle or on the side, the straight shingle is exactly as it sounds. The cut line is one line all the way around the head and then shingled to conform the hairstyle gracefully around the head. The French bob is parted in the middle and is a shingled bob as well, but the back at the nape of the neck is cut into a V shape. Since the V shape in the back is its defining feature, it's hard to pick a girl out of the yearbooks that might have this haircut. But here's a good image of what the V would look like. In 1922, Howard Carter discovered the tomb of King Tutankhamun, complete with all its treasures. This fueled a new wave of Egyptomania in the Western world. The bob was already well on its way to becoming popular, and newspapers started making comparisons of the bob hairstyle to Egyptian hieroglyphs. So it is no surprise that the Egyptian bob or the King Tut bob name came to pass. The Broadway bob is parted down the middle and cut a little longer at the front, and the hair curves in toward the face. The bangs are also styled down the middle and appear to be left a little long. This is the closest I could find to a look in the yearbook that was kind of styled like this, but it also conspicuously looks like a girl's just trying to grow out her bangs. The Dutch bob, like Colleen Moore's, is a straight blunt cut all the way around the head and straight across at the bangs. The coconut is also a straight cut around, but a little shorter so that the bottom aligns just at the nose, whereas the lengths of the rest of the straight cuts tend to align with the mouth. Straight cuts without bangs include the valley, an all-around blunt cut with the hair parted down the upper peak of the eyebrow and held back with a barrette or bob pin on the other side. I've sort of mimicked it in my hair today. And the cha ming, which is Chinese for find out, is also parted on the side, but the cut next to the cheeks is slightly slanted down to leave a little bit of length to curve into the face. There are many styles that were less prevalent in the 1920s, but they are beautiful all the same. The Eton crop was an above-the-ear short cut. The name originates from England, and it was called the garçon in France. Barber Joseph de Silvis, who wrote the bobbing manual I mentioned before, coined the term the wind-blown bob. He claimed he and his wife were on the beach in 1928, and a young woman caught his eye with her hair that was artistically disarranged by the soft breeze. He pointed her out to his wife, but she didn't care for that look with that wind blowing all around. He seized on it and designed a new style for his more adventurous clientele. The fawn is a shorter cut, and the waves are all styled forward, so the pixie-like curls frame around the face. Another style that you may not have heard about is the orchid bob. It gets its name from the exaggerated way the hair at the base of the chin curves in toward the face, like the labellum of an orchid. The cut is sort of irrelevant. This one is defined only by the way it is styled. The pineapple was a curly style cut evenly all over the head. I love this one and picture every woman who wore it as being very sassy. Some of the weirder bob hairstyles. The bangs combed straight down and then cut into the shape of the top of a heart is the sweetheart bang. Not a common style, a little more avant-garde. I couldn't find anybody in the yearbook with anything close to this, but I did find this girl who had a slight dip cut into the middle of her bang. This one just screams early sensational news clickbait to me, and here it is. The newest and nuttiest hairstyle released today from the Hair Fashion Council of America, the monkey bob. Other bobs included the Lee bob, which I didn't find any appearance of in my 1929 yearbook, but it looked pretty popular for young women in this 1925 yearbook. Then there's the chic bob. It's like the Eton crop, but it's not. Juana bob is not my favorite, but here it is. The parting goes across above the bang and is brushed back. Again, this one was more a look around 1925, but went away pretty quickly. And talking about bangs, let's see some creative ways girls differentiated themselves. The little kiss curls, also called spit curls, that I found in the yearbook are adorable. Each girl makes it her own. I also wanted to highlight some of these styles where half the fringe area is cut into a bang and the other half is left long. I just thought it was a really cute look. One bob I couldn't find a referenced image of, Louise Kublik mentions a 1925 bob called the May Murray or Rose Petal bob in her book Modern Haircutting and Styling, but doesn't give a great description of what the cut or the texture is for the hairstyle. This is May Murray in a movie in 1925, so I assume the rose petal refers to the way the curls lay like an upside down rose. There are more bob hairstyles, including ones that I could find names for but I couldn't find pictures of. The Chesterfield, the horseshoe, the Carmencita, the gigolo. Hairstylists and media were having a field day in naming these scandalously short hairstyles all the women were wearing. And on that note, let's talk about what everybody else was talking about. Whether or not these hairstyles were attractive, if they were appropriate for the feminine ideal, or if they were just going to go out of style. In 1927, this moment was caught on film. The caption reads, "The beauty doctors decreed bobbed hair passé." I love that the hairstylist that they had stand in for this newsworthy moment has a shingle bob. You can see it in her shadow. She is not thinking that bobs are passé. She is really thinking in her head, girl, let me cut your hair. The reality is shortened hair remained popular well into the 1930s, but people loved to decry that it was a short fad and it would go away quickly and any woman who would cut off her crowning glory was going to live to regret it. But here's the deal. The women getting their hair cut, they felt beautiful and they felt younger and they felt free. Unfortunately, that's what society really didn't like about it. There were these articles in which men pontificated, "Why, I refuse to let my wife cut her hair, and it will break up my household." I read a lot of quotes in newspapers for men who wanted their wives to keep their long hair, and a lot of men complaining how much more external male attention their newly bobbed wives were getting. Newspaper articles love to print headlines about the battle of the bob and are you for or against bobbed hair. Conflict sells newspapers, and I'm not even going to get into the puritanical arguments that were being made against bobbed hair. Did all women bob their hair in the 1920s? No. There were a lot of women that kept their hair long and then they just pinned it in the back so that it had the bob effect. You can tell in some images when the hair is sitting like really close to the chin that is a dead giveaway that she probably has long hair and it's just pinned in the back. And that's why it's tight against the face and it looks like it's disappearing behind the chin. That's the popular silhouette of the time. If every woman has a hairstyle that reveals her neck and her shoulders and sits close to her scalp, what difference does it make if it's bobbed or if it's long? I'm so glad we're past the days of people being so opinionated about what a woman wears. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this little bit of hair history and I hope you keep watching. One last thing. Can we just praise the names of some of the women in this 1929 yearbook? Elva, Alistine, Zelda, Pirina, don't know how to pronounce that. It literally means made of stone. Rialthal, Erminia, Vanetta, Mame. Either way, put the blame on her. Evius, Zella, Deverell, Zenobia, Lust,